Here we go. So I'm going to start out this segment with a question from the chat. Are you curious about the ghost character you're playing and its history, or do you feel it simply functions as a framing device to let you examine the family? Honestly, it's a little unclear so far. I like that part of how the game has been set up. For 95% of that chapter, my existence as a ghost seemed just like a convenient sort of device for actually giving me like a narrative reason, or not even. I don't know, was I ever described as a ghost? I just have the ability to possess lights, which suggests ghost. But I have no idea what I am. I seem to be just some sort of like, I'm a disembodied camera, except that I'm actually embodied because I can spook people. So I don't know what I am, but it seemed mostly like a convenient sort of device for getting around the house and seeing different things and exploring these different memories and thoughts and whatnot. That last little bit where I had to whisper in Dan's ear and I found the journal from 1948, that all of a sudden piques my interest and makes me think that there's something more to this, that there's another dimension to it, that there's another layer to the narrative, and that actually maybe I do have a history, maybe I have a role, maybe I have some sort of more of a narrative context than just was suggested by the very beginning. So now at this point I am intrigued, and I feel like it's odd how games manage to do this, because it's hard for me to describe this as obviously a pattern since everything has only happened once so far. But like I said, I think that what we just experienced is a discrete chunk that will now be repeated over and over again. That will turn out to be a pattern. And so I expect that the first 95% of each chunk of each chapter is going to be about the family. And then once I get to the nighttime part, I'll have an opportunity to uncover more about the history of the house. And the implication in my mind is that learning more about the house is also going to help me learn more about who I am and what role I actually have. Cool. Awesome. All right, here we go. I'm going to go back over to the game. Interesting. I'm going to click on this just because I'm curious. When the Kaplans arrived and Dan was struggling with writer's block, he put his book aside for one night to have a bottle of wine and relax with his wife, but still found time for 2 games of Race and Roger. That doesn't seem like too much to ask, Dan. I feel like that was something that you could do. When Linda put on an art show and asked for Dan's help with publicity... what's gonna happen? Uh-oh, how do I get out of this? There we go. All right. I'm tempted to leave the lights and look at that drawing, but I don't know where anybody is yet. I could pick the one with... I think she's going into her... Oh no, she's going to stand by that window. It's okay, I can sneak up behind her like this. Oh, interesting.
What is it, Mommy?
I don't know yet, honey.
Interesting. I think it's a hand reaching out of the water, attempting to grab a unicorn. Pretty sure that's what it is. Where is the rest of this memory? Over here.
I knew we should have eaten something with that wine last night. My head is killing me. It was totally worth it, though. We put on some music and hung out on the couch, all cuddled up like we were freshmen again. He didn't talk about his book once. We got a little too into a discussion about whose favorite band from college was still the best, and we accidentally woke Tommy up. We got him settled back down and decided to call it a night, too. Well, except for... I better not write about this.
She's very Victorian about her journaling. Okay, so I found all of the memories. Now I can exit.
Well, I think maybe it's time.
I think maybe it's time, huh? Hope we can find a babysitter. Interesting that, like, the help text has suggested to me what's going on, but the game itself really hasn't yet given me a narrative. And she's not going to talk to him. She's just going to... Okay.
Hey, what's wrong?
Exhausted sigh. Got it. Got it. I see how you're feeling. The audio does not help me a whole lot, I have to say.
Writer's block turned into writer's fog or something like that. I never found my notebook. I guess it's just gone. Did we lose it in the move? Leave it at home? I ended up having Alice find out about Scott and Sarah by overhearing a phone call. It's awful. Having Alice eavesdrop on them completely kills the sympathy I've been trying to build for her. What a junk solution. But I had to get something down and move on. I guess that was it. Hopefully I can come back and fix it later.
I didn't realize at first that he was talking about the characters in his book. And I was confused as to who Alice and Scott and Sarah were. But now I get it. Now I understand. Okay, I found all three of the things. He just wants to play Racing Roger forever. Where's Mom? I still don't know where Mom is. But she doesn't appear to be right here. Alright.
Right down there.
Cool. Can we go?
He really likes the ocean, it seems like. Like he's particularly into that. This is the same drawing. Isn't it the same drawing that he did before? He's copying his own drawings. Well, that didn't work. I wanna get over and see this drawing over here. I don't know where Mom is. Yeah. He likes going to the beach. He never draws pictures of his mom, which is sort of weird. Okay, so now I've gotten all of the memories.
Has it been 5 years already? I still remember the thought that blindsided me when I saw Tommy for the first time. He's my new creative work. TJ gave me such a look when I told her I was going to cut back on my painting, but she doesn't have any kids, so there's no way she could understand. It's hard to top creating an entire person. Maybe she thought Dan told me I had to stay home. That would have been a very short conversation. Still, I can't ignore the fact that it's time to figure out what on hold means. What would it look like to go back full time? Do I want to?
So Tommy's 5 years old is what I got out of that. I'm looking around for things that seem interesting to look at. Like there's stuff over there, but it seems hard to get to. Like whatever's hanging on that mirror. I'm gonna wait for people to leave. What about Tommy's room? This note good for one adventure. Signed, Daddy. Well, that's cute. I wonder if he will live up to that. What happened to Dan? In arts and entertainment news, the Westlake Gallery has announced a show by visiting artist Linda Kaplan. A resident of Laurelton, Mrs. Kaplan is visiting the coast with her family and has completed a new series she describes as an expression of restrained emotion using society's imposition on nature as a lens. Details of the show will be forthcoming. Local art enthusiasts will be doubly pleased to learn that the community center will be blah 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 blah. An expression of restrained emotion using society's imposition on nature as a lens. Interesting. That at least she interprets her own
Paul,
muse as
Hey, man,
restrained
if I'd known my letter
emotion.
would set you off like that, I wouldn't have written. My fault. Let's both just calm down. I see now that it was stupid to ask if you knew any art agents. That's like you asking me if I know any professional sculptors. Dumb question, point taken. But believe me, no one's more worried about the schedule than I am. I think about it every day. I can't get away from it. Most nights I start thinking about it and can't stop. My heart starts beating out of control and I have to get up and try to work just to calm down. I'm not slacking off, man. I shouldn't have made you think I was focused on anything else. I'll get everything sorted out. Seriously, Dan.
So, Dan's under extreme pressure. Oh, and there's something... to make sure no one bullies Tommy. Take my bucket to the beach with Daddy. Got it. That's what he wants. How do I get to that folder? I can't possess the TV. Nope. There is no distracting her from television. Mrs. Kaplan, we're thrilled to be exhibiting your work Thursday. I know this all came together a little last minute, but our secretary is only part-time and she sometimes gets behind. I've sent along some forms and samples for the ad we plan to run in this week's paper. I know it's probably the last thing you want to worry about right now, but what's the point of putting on a show if no one knows about it? Anyhow, I know this is all a bit hectic, but while we might be small, we have a lot of heart and we're very excited about your show. Nicole Adams, Westlake Gallery. So again, like, it's a little weird that I'm finding out about that kind of stuff.
Big news, Barb. I'm putting
Now?
on a show. Can you believe it?
Like,
I've already got butterflies. It's been so long. I'm glad it's a small gallery so I can ease my way back into things a bit. And I want to do it right. I'd forgotten how much work goes into things that aren't painting when it's time to put on a gallery. You know I could never stand all the logistical rigmarole. Plus I have a piece I really want to finish before the show. So much to do. I want to take it seriously and go through the whole process though, because if the show goes well, who knows? Hope to hear from you, and hope you can come, of course. Yours always, Linda.
I can all wait.
I think my big lesson is I'm not going to read the recap next time, because I feel like that kind of threw me off in terms of how I'm getting information. But it also, like, the stuff that I got from exploring the characters and their memories sort of lacked a context that I'm only getting by reading notes around the house. And so I feel like maybe it would make more sense if I read the notes first and then explored memories. But it's easier to actually find the characters and explore their memories than it is to find the notes and read them. Pressure, writing pressure. That looks like another note that I haven't read, and there's a book down there. Why do I always find things in rooms where people are? Is it because I only look in rooms where people are? Is that a problem that I have? Board games, beaches. We know what Tommy likes. Oh shit. Did she see me? Ah, okay, so there's promo forms on the coffee table. I assumed that if she saw me, it would give me some kind of feedback. So I think it's being very generous with the stealth element. Friday, wrap draft. Saturday, family day. Sunday, dialogue pass. Fix Alice. Revisions when? Uh-huh.
It just never stops. Every time I plot something I think will hold together, it falls to pieces. This thing was supposed to be done months ago, but the further I get, the harder it is to make it all work. Nothing's ever as simple as it seems at first. I'll think about a problem for days, finally come up with a fix, and then realize it breaks something somewhere else. I can barely hold all the threads together. Sometimes this thing just feels too big for me and I want to burn it and walk away. But what else would I do? And the deadlines don't help either. I can't think harder or faster. This stuff comes when it comes, and getting stressed out about it just makes it harder to get the words down. Like right now, I'm writing about the thing instead of working on the thing. Damn it, Dan, get to work.
Tense. The Literary Register, May edition, inside the Books of Summer, Adam Squires, The Interview, America's Top Small Run Publishers. Okay, so what do I have? I need Dan's final... Where'd Dan go? Typewriter. All right. So I got my 3 things. This is more than is strictly necessary for me to finish a chapter. Like, I only actually need to find one of these things. And I actually don't really benefit mechanically by finding more than 2. But it feels like finding all 3 is equivalent to sort of finding all of the... understanding what everybody's problems and desires are. So it's something that I want to do. I feel like Dan is really, really stressed out about his deadlines. I really want to support Linda in her creative work. And I kind of hate the beach. I think Tommy has terrible taste. I feel like I'm making kind of an arbitrary decision here. There's a couple things that I can do. I can either try to make a value judgment, right? It seems like Dan is the source of agency in this game. So what is it that Dan should do? How should he prioritize things in his life? So I can either make a value judgment, although the game does a really good job of making it unclear, that's a very subjective choice. Like the game is not weighing one of these options heavily better than the other ones. Or I can sort of pursue the stories that I think are more interesting. And right now, frankly, I find Linda and Dan much more interesting than Tommy. And I find Linda more interesting than Dan because Dan's story seems to just always be the same. He's hitting his head against this novel, which is something that I can relate to, but it's not very dynamic, and so it's not as interesting as Linda's got a lot of stuff going on. She's really concerned about her relationship with her husband. She's concerned about sort of how her care of her child has affected her personal life and the way that she's transitioning now into a different mode of expressing herself. And she's got this potentially blossoming career, which is more interesting than a sort of struggling to stay in the air career, just on a, pure narrative interest level. So I find Linda's story the most interesting story, and so I think I'm going to sort of prioritize her a little bit. And it feels weird for me to say that, to make that decision based on that criteria. But I think I'm gonna do Linda and try to compromise with Dan. Choose Linda's resolution. I'm gonna do it. And now I'm gonna go into nighttime mode, I think. And now I don't need to be stealthy anymore. Here's another mysterious journal that didn't exist before. From the desk of Harold Baxter, January 17th, 1948. I'm now certain there's something strange with the light here. It must be those windows. I was reviewing old deeds in the living area and saw some sort of flash of light out of the corner of my eye. I would assume the elevation would put the ocean too far away for the sun to reflect off a wave, but perhaps not. I looked, but there was nothing there except a strange shimmer, like heat above the asphalt of a hot road. It dissipated almost immediately. Perhaps some concentration of the light caused it. But on to work. I've begun cataloging possible options for the property. I owe Mr. Lowry a report by the 24th. That certainly sounds like me, right? And suggests that I've been around at least since 1948. And have been sort of active in some way, doing this kind of whatever crazy stuff I'm doing. Typewriter was the other thing that I wanted. I wanted to compromise on the typewriter. Oh, here's another journal. Oh, there's more journals. Oh, shit. I have to search the whole house now for journals. I failed to log my activities, January 19th, 2 days later, 1948. I failed to log my activities yesterday as nothing of note occurred. There have been no tricks of the light for 2 days, and I've grown certain that the ones I saw were reflections from the ocean improbably reaching the house. I've been able to focus on the task at hand and am suitably pleased with the condition of the property. I have also reached a decision on how to proceed. It came to me this morning as I stood in the conservatory admiring the beauty of the forest. I hadn't begun my work yet, and was thinking of nothing in particular when an idea came into my head fully formed. I was surprised that it appeared with such clarity, but it's not unheard of for the mind to ponder a question in the subconscious. As for the idea, it's quite simple. I will buy the house myself. Harold Baxter is going to buy this house. this already haunted house. So I don't know that these diaries are gonna tell me the origin of the ghost, but they might tell me something interesting about my history. 2 journals seems like that's probably all the journals. Did I already select the typewriter? I forget. Oh, I can fall. Interesting. Okay. I didn't. I think I just selected the journal. Selecting the typewriter, we'll choose Dan's compromise. I'm gonna do that. Alright, let's end this. Now we get a summary. The art show was a huge opportunity for Linda, so after getting an earful from Paul, Dan spent Saturday working on an announcement ad for the local paper. He called every writer he knew to ask if their agents knew anyone in the art world, and on the 4th call he got lucky. The effort paid off. The show was a hit. Good job, Linda. Dan knew he couldn't deliver a finished chapter on time, but decided that sending a rough draft would be better than sending nothing at all. He called Paul to warn him about the state of the work. Paul understood. He even thanked Dan for his honesty, and though the chapter was in its early stages, Paul saw enough promise to keep the publisher at bay a little longer. Good. Tommy spent Saturday playing by the window, looking out at the beach, and wishing his dad wasn't so busy doing grown-up things. He tried to use the shovel that came with his bucket as a jump for his cars, but it was too light and kept sliding out of the way. It was weeks before he played with his bucket again. Tommy is not inventive enough with his toys. I feel like you could make that work, Tommy. The funeral. That night, Linda got a phone call. That's a really interesting way to introduce a chapter. It's in keeping with sort of the theme of writing, of the written word. I don't quite know what to make of it. I mean, like it starts as though it's going to give us some very explicit narrative about what's happening. It suggests the existence of a narrator, like some kind of an omniscient force that is more omniscient than I am, because I have to actually piece my information together from like letters and pictures. But then it doesn't actually deliver. It seems as though it's actually framing the entire game as a chapter of a book. And if you think about it that way, if the ghost is playing the part of the third person omniscient narrator, actually like choosing what things to look at and describing the contents of notes and letters and memories that the characters have, that makes a weird kind of sense, actually. Like my role less as a ghost and more as the incarnation of the sort of typical novel's perspective, written perspective. I'd be curious to see if there's more in the game that reinforces that. All right, I'm going to take another short break, and when I come back, let's do another question. So if you have questions about the latest section, put them in the chat, and we'll do another one of those when I come back, which will be in just a second.